It's been 5 years since we moved home and I turned part of the bedroom into this sewing space that you see right now. Now 5 years is a pretty long time and I'm itching to make some bigger changes in my sewing space. But before I do that, I wanted to share some of the best decisions I made in my sewing space that I'm definitely keeping and some of the worst decisions that I plan on changing. So I will start with the best decision and actually the very first item that I bought for this sewing space, and it's this desk lamp that you see behind me. Now what I love about this particular lamp is that it's very bright and very wide. So even if I'm working with a big sewing machine, the entire sewing space is perfectly lit up. It is also adjustable height and dimmable, so I can adjust it depending on the project that I'm currently working, and I can bring it closer to the sewing machine or lift it higher. The lamp is attached to the table with a clamp, so I don't have to worry that I will accidentally push it off the table with my fabric. But if I need to remove the lamp, I can simply lift it off the base, which comes very handy when I want to do machine embroidery. And for the embroidery frame to move easily, I do need to remove the lamp. Now the only downside for this particular lamp is that it is rather pricey and it's about 100 euros, maybe a little bit more. But again, it lasted me already 5 years and to this day it's as good as new. I looked into alternative lighting solutions, but they did not come even close to the solution I have right now. My sewing space is not very well lit up, and also I live in a northern country where we have very long dark periods in winter. So for me, having a very good lighting is a must-have. I will link this lamp in the description box down below, as well as other items I will mention in this video. So now that I said the best thing in my sewing space, I need to tell you the worst thing in my sewing space, and it does pain me to say this because I've been dreaming about this particular item for many years, but now that I have it, I don't like it, and it's thread wall. I've been seeing the thread wall on social media, on Pinterest, and I have been dreaming about this idea of having it. So when I moved into this particular sewing space, we actually had a perfect place in the closet to install this thread wall. Now, even though it does look nice, there are quite a few performance points that I don't in particularly like. So the key thing for me is that it's not very space efficient. Now, for example, I only keep my big thread cones right here, and I could say that I only store about a third, maybe even a fourth of all my cones. All of my other thread cones are stored in the drawer, which is about the same size as the thread wall, but it holds about 3 times more thread. Also, when we are comparing thread wall to the simple drawer, using the thread wall is not as easy, and it is harder to remove the thread cones and to organize them compared to the simple drawer. Not only that, but even though I store my thread wall underneath the closet doors, if I don't use a particular thread for extended period of time, it does get dusty, something which doesn't have in a closed drawer. And on top of that, it's a rather pricey solution, and if I would like to store all of my threads, not only big cones but also smaller spools, I would probably have to dedicate this entire wall you see behind me and spend like literally hundreds of euros to create this storage solution, which isn't very good for me. So instead of the thread wall, I do prefer using the simple standard drawer to keep my big cones. Now, to keep and organize my small thread spools, a while back I bought these 2 thread cases. In one case, I keep all of my sewing threads, and in other case, I keep all of my embroidery threads and specialty threads. Now, this particular solution was rather cheap, but is very space efficient. It's easy to organize, it's easy to store, and it doesn't get dusty. And if I were to redo the thread wall and change it to something else, I would actually get instead a stackable mini drawer case. I bought this small case of mini drawers a while back, and it turned out to be a very good solution to keep all of my small sewing items like needles, beads, buttons, small ribbons, ribbons, small tapes, and something like that, because usually I don't have a very dedicated space to keep all those small tiny things, and using these small closed drawers is getting me a very neatly organized, very secure storage solution. So while thread walls look amazing and they do work for a lot of sewists, for me personally that was a disappointing solution, and if I could turn back time I would do things differently. Okay, so the next thing that is one of the best solutions that I have in my sewing space is the cart for my iron. I will call it my ironing station for the rest of the video. Now this is a very simple metal cart. I think I paid about 30 euros, something like that. I bought it a year ago when I bought my steam iron. I needed a dedicated place to keep it, so I now keep it at the top of my ironing station. This has been such a good solution because not only it does provide me extra storage, but also when I'm not using my iron, I can push it to the corner, and when I need it, I can bring it back and move it into any part of the room. Now at the top, I do keep my iron, which a lot of you asked what iron I'm using, and I'm using a professional grade Bifester Vapor iron. I bought it a year ago. It's perfect iron. I have no complaints about it. It's professional grade iron, but it is suitable for home use or small ateliers. I bought it for 220 euros, and considering the price, this is a very good solution. Now in the middle section of my ironing station, I keep my clear toolbox, while I keep my everyday sewing essentials such as measuring tape, different marking tools, small rulers, and similar items. I used to keep here my scissors as well, but I have an almost 3-year-old son. He loves playing with my toolbox, so I needed to move all of the sharp objects into different space. So now in this toolbox, I only keep items that are safe for him to play and that I also use every day when sewing. Next to the toolbox, I keep this portable mini vacuum cleaner, which I bought a while back, and I've been loving it ever since, because even though I'm trying to keep my sewing space very neat and tidy, if I'm working with fabrics that tend to fray a lot, this mini iron comes very handy, and I can simply clean it up while I'm sewing or after I'm done sewing. It does come with different nozzles, and they are perfect when I need to clean my serger. And at the bottom of my ironing station, I keep the projects that I'm currently working on or fabrics that I plan on cutting in very soon. So this ironing station was such a cheap solution, and I was just thinking the other day, how did I do without it? Because it's such a good and very practical solution that I'm definitely keeping. By the way, today I'm wearing the turtleneck dress that is made using my self-drafted pattern. One of my most popular sewing courses, How to Make the T-shirt, just got winter update and now includes not only how to make pattern and sew different types of t-shirts, but also how you can create sweatshirts specifically for your figure and create fitted dresses, and based on popular demand, how to make the turtleneck dress. The pattern making technique that I share in the course is very beginner friendly, so if you've been tempted to try making patterns that are created specifically for your figure, I will link the course in the description box down below. Now let's continue with the video, and now that I've told you the best ironing solution that I have, I want to tell you about the worst ironing solution that I bought. And I hate to admit this, but this is the newest item that I bought and I'm already disappointed. So it's this particular ironing board. Now I have to admit, I have never bought the ironing board before because the one I had was given by my mom when I moved out of my parents. She simply gave it to me. But after more than 20 years of use, the ironing board gave up recently and I needed to buy a new one. So I didn't really overthink this and I bought the simple ironing board that was on sale at the time. And that was my mistake. So the previous ironing board that I had the surface made from the plywood and painted metal legs. Now the base of the ironing board that I bought now is actually made from the metal net, and the legs of the ironing board are unpainted. Now this doesn't look like a big deal at first, but because I use steam when I'm ironing, and steam is essentially evaporated water, when water meets unpainted metal, it gets rust. which is exactly what happened after the very first time that I used this ironing board. But this is not the biggest issue because, well, nobody's going to look underneath my ironing board to see that it's rusted. The bigger issue is that when I'm using a lot of steam, let's say I'm preparing fabric for cutting, I want to really pre-steam it well, I use a lot of steam, and that steam meets cold metal, and the steam solidifies and turns into water drops. So now the issue that I have is that if I'm pressing very long time using steam, the water starts dripping and I just have rusted water all over the floor, which is a problem that I never had with my previous ironing board. And on the floor, I do keep my extension tables when I'm sewing because I do plug lots of devices, and having leaking water is something I don't enjoy having. So now every single time that I use this particular ironing board, I am not happy, and I do think about changing it, but first I do need to do a little bit more research and to find which solution would be best for my particular sewing space. Back at sewing school, we did use the ironing boards that have the steam suction function. I love those, but it's a little bit pricey, so I am doing inner negotiations whether I'm ready to make that investment or not. Now, the next best thing that I added in my sewing space, I did mention it in my previous video, and it's the cutting table that is actually a mini table tennis. I had some serious back pain problems at the beginning of the year, which made cutting on the floor absolute non-negotiable, and I needed to find a solution that would fit my sewing space, and so I got this foldable mini table tennis. It's not the perfect size, but it is a perfect size for my particular small sewing space. When I shared it in the previous video about my sewing space, quite a few of you mentioned to get the bed leg raisers to make this table higher. So this is one adjustment that I definitely plan on doing. I tried looking for those raisers in the local stores with no leg, so I will look into if I can ship them internationally. Other than that, this is a perfect solution. It made my life cutting fabrics so much easier. I draft my patterns on it, and it's just very good solution. I put on top a big cutting mat, and I'm trying to get used to using a rotary cutter, but I'm very used to using my scissors, so learning how to use a rotary cutting does come with a rather steep learning curve, but I try my best to learn it. If you have back pain especially, I definitely do not recommend cutting on floor. This is one of the key problems for me, at least. If you also have back pain issues and you're looking for a suitable solution for small sewing space, you can think outside the box and get like mini foldable table tennis and solve this issue. So the last thing, and one of the key things that I plan on changing in my sewing space, is actually this table you see right here. So I bought this table about 4 years ago when I needed a place to work from home. So it was never a plan to use it as a sewing table, but this is what I use it for now. Now the thing is, it was a rather cheap IKEA table, and when I'm working with the computer on it, it's fine, it's a good table. But when I want to sew, or especially if I want to do machine embroidery, which moves very fast, it's just not stable enough. So currently I'm using Brothers Tailor 2, which is embroidery and sewing machine, and it's a very stable machine. But because I'm using it with this particular table, which is not very stable, I cannot fully enjoy the pleasure of sewing calmly using this particular machine simply because of the table. I haven't fully decided of what kind of table I want to go with. Maybe I want to go with something more solid, like something that has thick metal legs and thick solid wood top. And alternatively, I've been looking into tables that specifically have anti-vibration functions, though I'm not sure if they will be in my budget. Either way, one of the recommendations I could definitely give you is to get a good sturdy table to enjoy a more stable sewing experience. So here are the worst and best things in my sewing space that I wanted to share today. If you enjoyed this video, this is a video you may want to watch next. Thank you for watching today, and I will see you next time. Bye!